Ooni started selling their own Neapolitan and New York-style dough mixes. In this quick review, I'll test out both doughs and suggest some changes to their directions. The boxes didn't mention the exact final dough hydration. I emailed Ooni's support team, who said they estimate 59% for the Neapolitan and 56% for the New York makes. And let me just say, there's no way that's true. The final dough is pretty sticky, which leads me to believe it's more like 65 to 67%. I weighed the total dry mixture so we can find a rough estimate by assuming the amount of salt, yeast, and sugars added. Here's my rough calculation. The Neapolitan came in at 67%, which is exactly how it feels. This percentage can be a bit of a tricky dough for newbies to handle, so you may want to cut the water back a bit to get between 60 to 65%. But let's cook with it first and see how it does. I followed the directions exactly, which has you cold proof the dough in bulk. The next day, divide it into 4 and proof at room temperature for 2 hours. The dough was very relaxed and easy to overstretch, so be very careful lifting it out of the tray. You'll want to place it directly into the provided semolina flour. Stretch it out and make sure to shimmy it onto your peel a bit so it doesn't stick. The bake was awesome, but I didn't like the coarse semolina. Since the dough was pretty wet, you have to use a lot of it. So this time, I'm going to use a 50-50 mix of semolina and 00 flour. This one I'm making here is a white pizza with garlic butter mushrooms. If you haven't tried pre-searing your mushrooms instead of adding them uncooked, you're missing out. This was an incredible pizza, a really soft, airy crust, perfectly charred bottom, melted but not overcooked cheese. The Neapolitan results are as good as buying Caputo Blue and doing it yourself. But before we talk cost, let's test out the New York style. The directions are pretty much the same for this one, with addition of 10 grams of olive oil. It still suggests cutting this into 4 12-inch pizzas, but I'm all about those 16-inch New Yorks. So I ditched that idea and made 2 425-gram dough balls, which left enough left over for 1 small 12-inch. This dough is also really easy to stretch, but not quite as delicate as the Neapolitan. I made a plain pie for my first attempt and baked it around 650 degrees. The dough shrunk up a bit when launching, which tends to happen with larger pizzas, but the final result was great. Solid coloring on the bottom and a crispy, yet slightly chewy bite. Next up, I used a Lloyd pan disc to bake the pizza on for the first half, which prevents the dough from shrinking up. This here is a raspberry chipotle pork barbecue pizza. There's no question this dough mix is the real deal. It can produce amazing pizzas, but it's not exactly the most beginner-friendly dough to handle. Cutting the Neapolitan dough back to 420 grams of water makes it easier to handle while still producing great results. Also, instead of bulk cold fermenting and then balling the dough the next day, I like to ball them before cold fermenting. So let's talk pricing. At the time of this review, the product costs $12.99, but you only get free shipping on orders over $99. I found these in my local Ace hardware store, and they actually cost $1 more than Ooni's website. Whereas King Arthur bread flour only costs $5.50 for a 5-pound bag. You still need to buy the salt and yeast, but there's no question you can make way more pizzas in the long run. But I see this as being a solid product for those who just got their Ooni and want a really good baseline dough to start learning with.